You are listening to Season 3, Episode 30, Fly the W670 podcast. We're calling this one the Christian Bethancourt game. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and most importantly, subscribe to the podcast and follow on all the socials. Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram, Fly the W on Facebook, or email us at flythew670@gmail.com. Well, Crawly, I think I predicted it. The Cubs were going to sweep. I think you got on board this time, or did you?
No, I was the
with
opposite
2 out of 3.
Way.
You were.
I had the
worried
Pirates
about these pitching matchups.
I had the Pirates taking 2 out of 3. I didn't
like
the
Pirates taking. But you shouldn't even be allowed to co-host today, Crawly. Taking the Pirates. You're like David Haw. David Haw bet money on Paul Skeens today. I told everybody he's just a man. He's not a machine. Damn it. He's just a man, Crawly. He puts his pants on just like you and I do.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I think the bullpen is the one that really kind of hurt them. But, it was probably one of the most amazing 3-game stretches you can almost – just in general. I'm not even talking about, like, this year. This year, clearly one of the best 3-game stretches. But when you think about the amount of runs and records that they broke and the pitchers that they faced, these were not like, scrubs. You know what I mean? These were – really good pitchers. And to me, it did not look like the pitching matchups favored the Cubs. And oh my God, did they just come out and just play like we haven't seen them play all season?
Yeah, it was special. I'll admit I got frustrated this afternoon and kind of walked away from it for a little bit and was following it on social. I said, all right, well, why not get back involved in this one? And boy, am I glad that I did that. But let's not get to the end. There has to be a beginning, and there's a middle, and there's an end, because this was a classic 3-game series. So we had a couple of 5:40 starts, which are great when you get up at 2:30 in the morning, and then an 11:37-ish first pitch. Pretty crazy. The pregame was on at 11 today. The Bernstein, Holmes, and Rahimi Wednesday show only did a 1-hour show today, Crawly. A 1-hour show to get out of the way for Cubs baseball. Let's start, though, with that first game, and that was on Monday night.
Monday night, Jamison Tyone versus Mitch Keller. Cubs get on the board first in this one. Top of the second, Nico Horner hits a 1-out double. He steals third, and that's just going to be the start of going to the races at this game. Dansby Swanson strikes out for the second out, but PCA hits a 2-out single to put the Cubs on the board 1-0. PCA stole second. Miguel Amaya singled. Pete scores and increases the Cubs lead 2-0. Ian Happ doubled to put runners at second and third, but Michael Busch grounded out to end the threat. Now, top of the third, Sale leads off with a ground rule double. The ball kind of squirted through this like side door. I don't know how it made it through there, but it did along the left field side. And then Cody Bellinger doubled to score Sale to make it 3-0. Isaac Paredes popped out to short for the first out of the inning. Cody stole third. So runner third, 1 out. Nico struck out and Dansby grounded out to leave Cody stranded in third. So now you're starting to go, you're starting to strand runners here, right? The Pirates struck back in the bottom of the third. Jared Triola led off the inning. With it looked like it was going to be, to me, like a single towards left field. Ian tried to cut it off. The ball got past him and ricocheted off those crazy walls, and he got all the way to third. Gene Juan Bay grounded out to score Triolo, and the Buckers were on the board. Cubs lead 3-1. Isaiah Kinner-Falefa lined out on a nice play by Ian in left field. He kind of went crashing against one of those cutouts in the wall. But then Brian Reynolds hit a solo home run to make it a 3-2 game. Long ball continues to haunt JMO. PCA leads off the fourth with a walk. He stole second, stole third, no outs. Miguel Amaya pops out to first base. Ian Happ walk. He steals second. Runners at second and third, 1 out. Michael Busch up to bat. The count is 1-2. And, in general, the home plate umpire he wasn't bad, but this was just a call that really kind of went against him. And unfortunately, he was called out. So I'm not going to sit there and really give him a hard time about it, but it was really a bad call. And then from there, Seiya would fly out to center to end the threat. So you have Mitch Keller on the ropes, right? Like you have him there. Through 4 innings, the Cubs had 3 runs on 7 hits. They drew 3 walks and they stole 7 bases. But they were 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position. They left 6 men on base.
That's what I talked about after this game. I said, boy, they could have won by a lot more.
Right. And you're like, oh my God, you had Mitch Keller on the ropes and you couldn't deliver the knockout blow. And usually when that happens, Dustin, it's not good.
Yeah, usually bites in the backside. Yeah.
Yep. And then, then now he's out of the game in the fourth inning. Mitch Keller had thrown so many pitches, and there were a lot of high stress pitches. Domingo Germán takes over. And it, again, close game, but top of the sixth, bottom of the order, again coming through, giving the Cubs a little breathing room. Dansby Swanson led the inning off with a walk PCA single to put runners at the corner. PCA was looking for another stolen base, right? And Germán quick pitched to Amaya, who doubled the score, Dansby and Pete. And now the Cubs can breathe a little bit with a 5-2 lead. But Dustin, that quick pitch, they're trying to throw off PCA's timing. And in doing so, you don't throw as good of a pitch. You know what I mean?
Right.
Another way
he's there. He is definitely in the Pirates' head. There's no doubt about that. PCA.
Yep. With Ian Happ up to bat, Germán drops a ball. That's a balk. Amaya to third. Germán struck out Ian Happ and Michael Busch for the first 2 outs. But Seiya with a clutch 2-out RBI single to extend the lead to 6-2. Seiya would steal second, the 8th Cubs steal of the game. Cody Bellinger was intentionally walked to get Isaac Paredes, which wasn't a bad idea. Walk Bellinger, get to Paredes, who's been awful. But then Germán is going to walk Paredes to load the bases, and then he walks Nico with the bases loaded to score a run. And then Dansby Swanson unloads the bases with a grand slam, his first in the Cubs uniform. And that 3-2 lead all of a sudden becomes an 11-2 lead. They scored 8 runs in the 6th inning. That grand slam happened on Dansby's mama's birthday, and he got out there and gave her the shout out on. It was a really cool moment.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very, very cool moment. Yep, that was cool. That was special.
Jameson Taillon still on the mound in the 7th with 1 out. Brian De La Cruz singled. Yasmani Grandal would double. He needed it after the game. He had to put runners at second and third. Jared Triolo grounded out to score De La Cruz, make it 11-3. Ji Hwan Bae added another one with a single. Cubs lead 11-4. Ethan Roberts would get the final out of the inning. Jameson Taillon goes 6 2/3 innings, gives up 4 runs on 8 hits, no walks, and 3 Ks, which has been pretty typical of for most of the season, but he's been struggling a little bit in August. Ethan pitched the 8th inning, but ran into some trouble. He'd load the bases. Pirates would score on a ground out. Ethan would again walk Yasmani Grandal to load the bases. Tyson Miller was called into the game. He hit the first batter he faced with the bases loaded to make it a 12-6 ball game, but he struck out the next batter to end the threat. Dustin, the 9th inning of this game is when it really gets bizarre. Completely off the rails for the Pirates. Miguel Amaya leads off with a double. Talkman grounds out to move to third. And then Michael Busch, the only Cub in the lineup without a hit at the point, he muscles a single to make it 13-6. Seiya singles, Cody doubles, Isaac Paredes singles, and the Cubs are up 15-6. So manager Derek Shelton gives the ball to 6'4", 270-pound Rowdy Tellez. Position player pitching, and it's Rowdy Tellez throwing 40-mile-per-hour heaters. The Cubs would score an additional 3 runs off him, batting around for the second time in the game and taking an 18-6 lead. Jack Neely would pitch the bottom of the 9th and give up a 2-run homer. The Cubs would win this one 18-8. Dustin, we got stats for you here. The Cubs set
all kinds of history.
The Cubs set season-high marks in hits with 21, runs with 18, the most in a game since plating 20 runs on 21 hits on August 1st, 2023 versus Cincinnati. The 8 stolen bases was the most in a game since September 17th, 1911 versus Brooklyn. They also had 8 stolen bases in that game. PCA's 3 stolen bases was the most by a Cub since Tony Campana, who did that on June 12th, 2012. And versus Detroit. And then Crow-Armstrong and Ian Happ became the first Cub teammates with 2+ steals in the same game. So all sorts of records being shattered on this one.
Yeah. Can we go back to the Rowdy Tellez part? Usually the absolute great Pat Hughes he is very even keel. I know you've spent a ton of time around Pat Hughes, and I've been able to spend a little bit of time around Pat Hughes. He usually plays it. He's very professional. To say he is very, very professional. He thinks it's an absolute joke when these kinds of things happen. And then on top of that, I wonder where the unwritten rules of baseball come into play. I mean, you've got a umpire who's calling a ball at least 8 inches outside and high a strike just because he wants to get the hell out of there. And everybody at that point wants to get the hell out of there. But then, guys are getting plunked. Instead of getting out of the way, they're letting a guy who doesn't pitch hit them with the bases loaded to add on to a lead. I mean, just where does it end? It just wasn't baseball. It's not good for the game.
I mean,
It's almost like there should be like a little league slaughter rule. If you decide to wave the white flag and put in a position player, then game over. Okay, it's just ugly. And then that's the problem, is that you as the team on offense has to go for it, especially after a game like today, right? We didn't have position players pitching today, and the Cubs were able to storm back. So I get why, were the Cubs out of line to steal bases, right? Were the Cubs out of line to get plunked by pitches from a position player? These are things that have to be kind of investigated, and it did make a mockery of the game that we really enjoy.
I mean, I think when you look at it at a standpoint, it's just been a miserable game. You want to forget it, and you want to get, as a manager of that team that's getting their butts kicked, you want to just let them just kind of laugh and blow some steam off. I think that's why he does it. I remember Rizzo getting a chance before to do it. Miggy Montero. I remember Ben Zobrist struck out Yadi Molina. So I mean, it happens. I don't think there's much you can do. It is what it is. It was a bad game, and they weren't going to blow any more bullpen arms, especially because the guy that they had starting the next day hadn't pitched in a long time. So I think in that regard,
very frustrating. All I'm going to say,
it's gambling and stuff like that. It's
right,
just it's
right.
a real tough,
that's a good point.
Slope.
It's just unusual to hear Pat Hughes kind of go off on something like that. That's not typically what he does. So when he does do that, it carries weight with me anyway. All right, let's move on to game number 2. This is the Justin Steele game.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about this one. There was a TBD, and the Pirates activated their rookie sensation, Jared Jones, on Tuesday. He went on the IL with the right lat strain on July 4th, so that's part of the reason I think they weren't sure about pitch count and all that stuff, how long he would be in the game. And he was taking on Justin Steele, who had allowed 2 runs or fewer in 4 straight and 5 of his last 6 starts. Didn't start out good for Steele. Bottom of the first, Isaiah Kinner, Falefa, and Brian Reynolds hit back-to-back singles. Nick Gonzalez grounded out. Reynolds was out at second, so that puts runners at the corner for O'Neal Cruz. He hits a sac fly. The Pirates are on the board. 1-0. Connor Joe drew a walk, and Brian De La Cruz doubled to scored Reynolds and put runners at second and third. The Pirates are up 2-0. Luckily, Steele was able to get Triolo to ground out to end the inning. Bottom of the second, Dustin, Steele comes out for the second inning, and the ump checks his hands. At first, it looked like they were going to eject him. That's what they thought on TV, that he had been tossed.
I was worried. I was worried when I didn't have the sound on. I was just watching, and when he walked, I thought, oh my gosh, he got thrown out of the game, and I quickly potted up the sound to figure out what the hell was going on.
Yeah, instead, they just made him wash what was ever on him. Steele said it was rosin on his glove arm. It was a really hot day. The umps had him wipe it off and allowed him to continue pitching. The Cubs offense came alive in the top of the 4th. Mike Tauchman walked, and Seiya Suzuki hit a slicing home run to right field to tie the game at 2. Cody Bellinger grounded out, but Isaac Paredes walked. Nico Horner doubled, and we had a classic waving Willie Harris. I haven't used the waving third base thing since Wendell Kim. but
wave him home, Wendell. Wave him home, Wendell. If you're of a certain age, like Crawly and I, you remember wave him home, Wendell.
Yep, Willie is getting that because the ball beat Paredes. I mean, it was not a good send. But catcher Henry Davis didn't get low enough to make the catch. It gets away from him. So the Cubs take a 3-2 lead. Then Dansby Swanson crushed a 2-run homer, 420 feet to center field, his second home run in as many days. And the Cubs are now up 5-2. The Cubs batted around, and that would be it for Jared Jones. He would not come back out after giving up 5 runs in the 4th inning. Top of the 5th, 1 out, Seiya Suzuki singles. Cody Bellinger hits one to second baseman Nick Gonzalez. He bobbles a tailor-made double play ball. Everyone is safe. That would have ended the inning right there. Instead, the Cubs make them pay. Isaac Paredes struck out for the second out, but Nico Horner's hit by a pitch to load the bases. And with the bases loaded, Dansby Swanson and PCA both drew walks to make it a 7-2 game. Bases still loaded for Miguel Amaya, who unloaded them. A single scored 2 more, and the Cubs were up 9-2. Amaya has had 2 or more hits in each of his last 5 starts, which ties the longest streak of consecutive games started by a Cubs catcher with at least 2 hits. That's 5 games. It was last done by Tyler Houston from 1998.
I'm not going to say I remember that. I'm not going to say I remember that. I mean, obviously I was alive, but I can't say that I remember Tyler Houston.
Tyler Houston had a couple of big games in that weird 1998 season when the Cubs made the wild card. There's always that trivia question: who caught Kerry Wood's 20K? It was actually Sandy Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
So
I could have told you that. I just don't remember Tyler Houston. Doesn't ring a bell.
It was crazy. But after that single by Amaya, Ian Happ flied out. But for the second straight inning, the Cubs batted around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dustin, I haven't seen anything, but counsel and trainer Nick Frangella came out to check on Steele before the fifth. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
He finished the inning. He pitched 5 innings, gave up 2 runs on 6 hits, 2 walks, and 6 Ks. Dustin, we know, and we've talked about how he just unfortunately has been the bad luck a lot of times, doesn't have a lot of wins, but I haven't heard anyone talk about that. I mean, I wonder what they were looking at.
Well, it sounded like the speculation was, I didn't hear what but whatever it was, he being Justin Steele, talked him out of taking him out of the game because he needed to get through that inning to qualify for the win.
But is he healthy?
Well, he looked healthy. I mean, he looked healthy. He looked healthy in the dugout today. Saw him bouncing around, enjoying the come from behind win that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So yeah, I think he's healthy. And
right.
You know, they obviously saw something because they came running out.
Yep. The first guy out of the pen was Nate Pearson. He gave up a home run to Brian De La Cruz to cut the Cubs lead to 9-3. That's the only hit Pearson gave up in 2 innings of work. Recently called up Keegan Thompson, got out of a little jam in the 8th. Unfortunately, another recent call up, Daniel Palencia struggled after getting the first 2 outs. He gave up 2 runs, and Porter Hodge was called to finish it up, and that's what he did. Counsel didn't want to go to him in that situation, would have preferred to stay away, but the Cubs win this one 9-5, and 3 of the runs scored in the 9th off Paredes, or 3 of the runs that the Pirates scored came off guys that were just called up from AAA. So it was more dominating than it actually looked. The Cubs scored 9 runs on only 7 hits, but they also drew 7 walks, and Nico was hit by a pitch. But after that game on Saturday, you take a look here, and Marquis put this graphic. The Cubs hitters in the last 6 games, they're averaging 9.8 runs, home runs 12, extra base hits 36, batting average 323, batting average with runners in scoring position 341. And so the Cubs were 5 for 1 in that span so far. So, now the Cubs have won the series, Dustin. But the problem we've been having lately is the Cubs.
That's not enough. Series aren't enough.
They've been doing that a lot lately, taking the first 2 games, but not able to close it out. And game 3, you're looking at the pitching matchup, Kyle Hendricks versus Paul Skeens. And I'm just going, oh God, And so the Cubs jump out in front early for the second game in a row. Ian Happ hits a leadoff double to start the game. Michael Busch would ground out to move him to third. Seiya strikes out for the second out, but Cody Bellinger hits a clutch 2-out RBI single to put the Cubs up 1-0. That lead didn't last long. Bottom of the first, Brian Reynolds hits a solo home run to tie the game. Top of the second, Nico hits a leadoff single. Dansby strikes out, but Nico steals second. PCA hits a bloop single, and then there was an error on new center fielder O'Neal Cruz. They moved him from
what do
short.
you think about that? That's weird to me.
You worry about a guy like that. I remember everyone talking about Chris Bryant being too tall for third. I mean, what do you got to lose? I mean, they may have someone in their system that they think is going to be the shortstop of the future. So I can see it happening. But either way, that throw gets by Yasmani Grandal, and PCA makes it to third. I think it was kind of a tough error. I don't think it was the greatest play by Yasmani Grandal. Christian Bethancourt had a nice professional at bat to make it 3-1. So that he grounded out. He gets the guy in. The lead did not last long. Bottom of the second, Yasmani Grandal walks. Jared Triolo doubles to put runners at second and third with no outs. Hendricks strikes out Alika Williams for the first out. And Isaiah Kinfer-Falefa grounds out, a run scores, but the Cubs get an important second out and still lead 3-2. Brian Reynolds to grounder up the middle to tie the game.
What a piece of hitting that was, by the way.
He's a great hitter, no doubt about that.
Yep.
O'Neal Cruz doubles to put runners at second and third, still 2 outs. And this is where, to me, huge mistake. Rowdy Tellez hits a pop fly. I don't know if Isaac Paredes lost it in the sun or if Dansby called it. Looked like a lot of confusion, but a very catchable ball lands untouched. And 2 runs score. The Cubs now trail 5-3. That was not Hendricks' fault. He should have been out of that inning at this point.
Yeah, he was. At that point, you and I were texting, and we were saying, the ump's not helping out here. The defense isn't helping out here. But right after that, kind of became his problem.
Yep. Connor Joe would single to move Tellez to second. And this is where I'm thinking that Counsell should have pulled him. You know, you haven't used a lot of high leverage guys lately. You have the day off tomorrow. I was shocked that he let him stay in as long as he did. Billy McKinney hits a ground rule double to score Tellez to make it 7-3. Yasmani Grandal walks. That would be it for Hendricks. Ethan Roberts.
How do you walk? How do you walk Yasmani Grandal? I mean, how do you walk that guy?
Hendricks would go 1 2/3 innings. He gave up 6 runs on 8 hits, 3 walks, 2 Ks. He gave up 1 home run. Dustin, we have a series with Washington next, and then the Cubs finally come back home after a 9-game road trip to face the Pirates. And who knows what's going to happen? That's September. You got your September call-ups. Would you let Hendricks start again against the Pirates at Wrigley next week?
Probably not, but I don't know what the plan is with Jordan Wicks, right? And then we also have to get into the fact that somebody else that we weren't sure was a Cub anymore somehow pitched for the Cubs today. I'm very confused. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll get
segment 3. But Roberts had a couple of base runners on in the 3rd, but he gets out of it. He would not get that lucky in the 4th. Connor Joe led the inning off with a home run. Cubs are down 7-3. Roberts then hits Billy McKinney with the pitch. Yes, Monty Grandal singles to put runners at the corners. Here comes Drew Smyly. You were just referring to him. He gets Jared Triolo to strike out for the first out.
Drew Smyly? I thought he walked. I thought he got traded. I thought they cut him. What's going on, Crawly?
Alika Williams hits so here's the thing. When you talk about Drew Smyly, they put him on waivers, and so another team has 48 hours to pick him up. So the same thing with Hector.
While he's still pitching for you?
Well, normally Hector Neris did the same thing. And so anybody that wants to pick up the rest of his salary can pick him up. So he's still part of the team. And yeah, he pitched. So, that's what happened. So he gets Jared Triolo to strike out for the first out. Akila Williams hits a sac bunt to score McKinney, makes it 8-3. Grandal goes to second. Smyly would get out of the inning. He would come out back out in the 5th. He gets a back-to-back singles to Brian Reynolds and O'Neill Cruz to put runners at the corner. O'Neill steals second, and then Connor Joe double would score them both and increase the Pirates' lead to 10-3. Like you, Dustin, I was frustrated because here's what bothered me, right, is that when Kyle Hendricks was out of the game, right, you're down, 6-3? And this team has been absolutely crushing lately. The Cubs offense has been crushing. I don't understand. Ethan Roberts is kind of the last guy to come out of the pen, right? He's the last guy. I don't understand why you wouldn't have put some maybe more high leverage guys in that situation just to keep it close, right?
Man, it felt like, I mean, Crawly, I told you, that's why I kind of walked away.
Right. I was like, okay, why is he going with kind of like the lower end of the bullpen, the low part of the totem pole? And that's what didn't make sense. You're now down 10-3, you're down 7 runs. And I know the Pirates bullpen is bad, but Tyson Miller, who I love, comes out, he pitches a scoreless 6. Top of the 7th, PCA with a leadoff single, and Christian Bethancourt would hit his 5th home run to cut the Pirates lead in half 10-5. All right. Getting a little interesting here, right? Ian Happ would draw a walk, advance to second on a wild pitch, but Michael Busch would strike out for the first out of the inning. Seiya Suzuki drew a walk, 2 on, 1 out, but Cody Bellinger grounded out, and Isaac Paredes flied out to end the threat. But you're down 10-5. But that takes us to the 8th inning, right? Against former Cub Aroldis Chapman, of all people. Dansby, 1 out, Dansby draws a walk and PCA singles. Who else but Christian Bethancourt doubles to score both runs? Cubs are now down 10-7. Then Bethancourt steals third base. Ian Happ singles to drive him in, and we now got a little ball game here, right? Cubs are down 10-8. Unfortunately, there was a really weird play. Mike Tauchman grounds into a double play. It looked like he trapped the ball. I don't know what happened. They rule it a double play. That ends the threat. So you're down 2 runs, and that takes it into the 9th inning. Cubs are down by 2. Seiya Suzuki leads off with a single, but Cody Bellinger hits into a force out. Seiya's out at second. Bellinger takes over at first. Isaac Paredes singles to put the tying run at first. Luis Vasquez will run for him. Nico Horner draws a walk. Bases loaded for Dansby Swanson. Dansby grounds into a force out. Nico out at second. A run scores. There's runners at first and third, but unfortunately now you got 2 outs, right? So you got first and third, 2 outs. The Nationals decide to intentionally walk PCA. Now, PCA's had 4 hits that game, and they're going to try their luck with Christian Bethancourt, who already had 5 RBIs in the game. He singles past the glove of shortstop IFA to score Vasquez and Swanson to give the Cubs an 11-10 lead. The closer, David Bednar, is pulled out of the game. PCA's at second. Bethancourt at first for Ian Happ. Ian Happ singles. Mike Talkman and Seiya singles. And before you know it, the Cubs win this one 14-10. Dustin, the hero of this game has to be Christian Bethancourt. We've had the Sandberg game. We've had the David Bodie game. This is the Christian Bethancourt game. For Christian Bethancourt, he had 7 RBIs, Dustin. 7
Crazy.
RBIs.
Crazy.
He's been in his 11 games since joining the Cubs. He's 11 for 27. He's hitting .407 with an OPS of 1.337, 3 home runs, 15 RBIs, and again, 7 RBIs that day. Dustin, how much fight did that team have? I mean, again, you and I were both going up, blew it again, couldn't close it. They never quit.
Yeah, Dale, don't stop now, boys. That was going on. Don't stop now, boys. Yeah, they never quit. And that's a credit. And that's where I don't do it a lot, but when he deserves it, I'm going to give him, I give Craig Counsell a ton of credit for getting these guys to not quit.
Now, Dustin, there's 2 guys we got to talk about. They're the guys that we've talked about this bottom half of this order, this Nico Dansby, PCA, and then whatever catcher you want to throw in there. We just showed those numbers from Christian Bethancourt. Here's the numbers for Miguel Amaya in his last 5 starts. 14 for 21, 667 average, 2 home runs, 3 doubles, 13 RBIs. How about PCA's last 3 days? This is from OPA-Stats right here. The Cubs PCA in the 3 games against the Pirates had multiple 3+ hit games, stole 3+ bases in a game, scored 4+ runs in a game. No other MLB rookie has done all 3 in a single series in the modern era, which is talking about 1901. And Dustin, this is the Cubs' 8 to 9 hitters in the batting orders in the series versus the Pirates from our friend Chris Kompka. 30 plate appearances, 16 for 26, 846 slugging, 11 runs, 16 RBIs, 4 stolen bases. The Cubs lead MLB with 69 RBIs from the 9th spot in the order this season. 33 of those have come since August 1st. So almost half of the RBIs from the 9th spot have been happening since August 1st. This is just
pretty amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah.
We've been talking on this Fly the W podcast since we started about the farm system, about Jared Banner, and about Dan Cantrovis, and about the draft. And you're starting to see the fruits of this labor paying off. Whether you're talking about some of the pitchers, some of the relievers. Again, if you think about it, I know that he's been struggling lately, Michael Busch. But if you think about guys that have been contributing to this team, where would they be without Amaya, PCA, Michael Busch? These are guys that have carried this team at different points throughout the season. And, it's just been so awesome as a Cub fan to see these young guys succeeding. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I hope this is just a lesson for everyone that give these kids some time to kind of learn. I know it's not fun. And when you're trying to be a team to make it to the playoffs, it's really hard to give these kids time. But this is what happens when you do. Hopefully, Dustin, we have a first catcher of the future, a first baseman of the future, and a center fielder for the future. Not just the now, but hopefully these guys can continue to develop and continue to be a big part of this Cubs organization.
Yeah, hopefully the future is bright. We all hope that here, of course, on the Fly the W670 podcast. This is the Fly the W670 podcast, the Christian Bethancourt game. It's season 3. It's episode 70. Feel free to leave Crawly and I a 5-star review. Of course, we're on all the social media platforms, and you can email us, flythew670@gmail.com. All right, Crawly, these standings aren't complete, but at least going into the action Wednesday night, how are things for our Cubs?
They are in second place behind the Brewers.
Wow.
Not only that, for the first time since May, we are almost at the end of August. You're almost into September. They are 2 games above 500.
2 games. 2 games.
2. The Cardinals are behind them in third place, 10.5 games. Then come the Reds at 12.5, and the Pirates in last place at 14. But Dustin, what is interesting tonight, and what we do have to do is we got to start scoreboard watching here, is looking at the wild card. The Diamondbacks are actually really just absolutely, they're playing well. San Diego's playing well. And unfortunately, the third wild card spot goes to the Braves, who are the only team hotter than the Cubs in the NL right now at 8-2 in their last 10 games. Then come the Mets, 3 games back. The Cubs are 5 games back, pending whatever happens tonight. Like you said, there's a lot of scores that we're going to have to watch from the Braves and the Mets. The Giants are just half a game behind the Cubs. I think the Giants are playing the Brewers tonight. Cardinals are 7 games back, and then the Reds and Pirates and Nationals are almost all double digits out. So you're at the point where you can almost count those teams out right now.
Yep, absolutely. Those teams are out of it, no doubt about that. All right, so before Tuesday's game, Julian Merryweather on the L with right knee tendonitis. Hopefully you're watching me on YouTube. Right knee tendonitis.
I mean, it's clear that he hasn't been the same, Dustin, and
he's been a massive disappointment, Crawly. Massive.
Right. But he's been injured most of the season, and then when he came back, he just hasn't been able to get it cooking, unfortunately. And you see that sometimes when a guy comes back from injury, is that injury lingers, and you're kind of dealing with that, and you try to compensate by doing things differently. He's not in a good spot right now, so I think it's the right move. They also optioned Jack Neely, who had another rough start in the series, or rough bullpen appearance.
I'm glad he's so tall.
Yeah. The Cubs called up right-handed pitchers Keegan Thompson and flamethrower Daniel Palencia. They kind of had their bumps. It was not easy for the bullpen this series, but it was mainly, like I said, they didn't struggle from the high leverage guys. It was more the guys on the low end of the totem pole. As we talked earlier, Bob Nightingale reported on Monday that Drew Smyly was put on outright waivers. So we are recording this Wednesday night. When it hits that 48-hour mark, at that point, then no team can claim Drew Smyly. So that's it. So the Cubs,
the whole thing just stinks. It's completely confusing. If no team claims him, then the report was out on Twitter that the Cubs would welcome him back with open arms. Well, then did Smyly ask for this? Did Smyly ask to be released and potentially go to a contender? It's just very confusing, especially for, okay, we're going to save a couple of $1 million if he goes somewhere else and not be in this luxury tax thing. It just doesn't sit right with me, Crawly. I don't like it. Not even one little bit.
Right. To me, I don't like it because the trading deadline should be it. You shouldn't be able to add players. And I think the Angels did that last year. They put a bunch of really good players on waivers, and they went to teams that claimed them, and it was all sorts of funkiness. I don't like it either. And again, the Cubs are trying to get under that luxury tax, like you said. So we'll see what happens. But it doesn't look, maybe someone swoops in the last hour here, but I don't think it happens.
No, I just don't like the look. I'm curious to hear Jed explain it. Thought he might be on the Mully and Haw show tomorrow. It's now looking like next week that's going to happen. So when he does show up, we will, of course, ask him about that, no doubt.
Can't wait. But now coming into town the Cubs are going to the Capitol to face the Nationals. Last season, those Nationals finished with a record of 71-91, 20 games under 500 and last in the NL East. They did take the season series versus the Cubs 4-3. Cubs took 3 of 4 in Washington in early May with the Nats walking off the finale in the 9th off Brad Boxberger, if you remember that name. The Cubs would take 2 of 3 from the Nats in July. Being in last place, you thought there's a lot of work to do, but they didn't do it much in the offseason. They did add Dylan Floro, outfielder Joey Gallo, and third baseman Nick Senzel. They traded Heimer Candelario. We're going to talk about that later to the Cubs, and they let Carl Edwards walk in free agency, and they let Victor Robles walk as well. 2004 has been rough for the Nationals, but it's slightly better than last season. They look a little bit better. They haven't had a winning month all season. But by the trade deadline, they DFA'd Eddie Rosario. They DFA'd Nick Senzel. They traded reliever Hunter Harvey, outfielder Jesse Winkler, who used to be with the Reds, outfielder Lane Thomas, mostly for prospects. The Nationals are finishing up a series with the Yankees. They lost the first game of that series 5-2, but they won game 2 4-2. So they're going to be playing tonight after we record this. And the Cubs have not faced the Nationals this season. They are going to face them this weekend and again in September at Wrigley.
All right, time for the tail of the tape. Tail of the tape.
Here we go here. The Cubs versus Nationals. When we talk about batting average, the advantage goes to the Nationals, who have a 244 batting average, 14th in baseball, compared to the Cubs, 239, 20th in all of baseball. The Cubs outslug the Nationals, and I'm sure that's been helped by this whole last week. The Cubs are 394, which is 17th in baseball. First time they've been out of the 20s in a while. And the Nationals are 23rd with a 378 slug. Runners in scoring position, the Nationals are 11th in baseball, 263, while the Cubs batting average with runners in scoring position is 22nd at 234. The advantage the Cubs really have is pitching. The starting pitching ERA for the Cubs is 386, which is 8th in all of baseball, while the Nationals have been playing a lot of rookies. They're at 436, 22nd in baseball. The relievers, the Cubs, like I said, had a rough week, or not rough week, but rough series. They are now 10th in all of baseball with the 373 ERA, not in the single digits anymore, while the Nationals are 21st, 409. And then the Cubs have the edge defensively, 17 defensive run saves, which is 14th in baseball, compared to negative 26, which is 27th in baseball for Washington. So when you look at a lot of these categories, especially the pitching and defense, the Cubs really have the advantage. The only thing that the Nationals have is batting average and runners in scoring position.
All right, so Friday night, it's a Shota Imanaga game.
Yep, 5:40 start. Shota Imanaga versus Jake Irving. Shota Imanaga is 10-3 with a 3.08 ERA and 24 games started with 140 strikeouts and 140 in a third innings pitch. Shota had a good start in his last outing. He gave up 2 runs on 4 hits in 7 innings. His previous 2 starts, he was only able to go 5 innings. Shota's 2-1 with a 3.32 ERA post All-Star break in 7 games started. He's never faced the Nationals. Shota is 6-1 on the road with a 2.94 ERA. None of the National hitters have seen Imanaga. Jack Irving is a 6'6 right-hander in his second season in the big leagues. You're going to see this with all the starters for Washington. They're all either in their first or second season. He's 9-10 with a 3.80 ERA in 27 games started. He has 130 strikeouts and 156 in the third innings. Phillies knocked him around a little bit 2 starts ago. He gave up 4 runs on 8 hits in 6 innings. In his last start against the Braves, he only gave up 2 runs on 5 hits and 5 1/3 innings. Jake has only faced the Cubs once in his career, making 1 start and giving up 1 run in 4 1/3 innings. No one on the Cubs has more than 3 at-bats against Irving, and the team is 1 for 11 against him. Irving features a 4-seam fastball, a curveball, and a sinker.
All right. And then what's happening in game number 2? Jamison Tyone, right?
Nope, that is Javier Assad.
Oh, that's game number
DJ
3. I'm sorry.
Hurts.
I'm sorry, Crawly. That's going to be, yeah. And that's an afternoon game, a 3:05 our time. So kind of an odd time for us, a 3:05 first pitch on that'll be Saturday afternoon.
Yes, Javier Assad, 6-4 with a 3.15 ERA and 24 games started with 102 strikeouts and 120 innings pitched. Assad took the loss last time against Miami in his last start. He gave up a couple home runs early, but pitched 7 innings, gave up 3 runs on 6 hits. That was his longest outing of the season. Before that start, he hadn't given up more than 2 runs in his previous 4 starts in August. Assad is 2-1 in 7 games that he has started post All-Star break with a 2.86 ERA. Assad's 3-3 on the road with a 3.96 ERA and 12 games started. Assad's only faced the Nationals once in his career. He pitched 5 innings of relief and gave up no runs. Only 2 Nationals have seen Assad. CJ Abrams has 2 at-bats and Luis Garcia has 1 at-bat, so no one really knows what Assad has. He's going to be facing DJ Hurts and Dustin. This one hurts me a little bit. He was traded last season by the Cubs to get Jaime Candelario. He was one of the Cubs' top 30 prospects. And I got to know DJ as he came through the Cubs minor league system. He came on the Fly the W podcast. I had 2 shirts made by Joe Obvious from Obvious Shirts that said Hers Day, because that was the big joke whenever he would pitch in the minors. They would call it Hers Day. And so I never got to wear that with DJ Hers on the mound. So DJ is 2-6 with a 3.64 ERA and 14 game starts with 83 strikeouts and 65 2/3 innings pitch. Like most rookies, he had a rough start, but he's starting to put it together. Pre-All-Star break, he was 1-3 with a 5.17 ERA. Post-All-Star break, he's still 1-3, but his ERA's improved to 2.62. He's not given up more than 2 runs in his last 7 starts. In his last start against the Brave, he pitched 5 shutout innings and gave up 1 hit with 3 walks and 8 Ks. DJ's never faced his old team, and the only Cub to see him was Christian Bethancourt, who was 0-2 against DJ Hurts. It's going to be interesting, Dustin, because a lot of these guys like PCA, Miguel Amaya, I mean, obviously they know DJ. So this is going to be interesting, but DJ features a fastball, changeup, and slider.
All right, then we get to the third game of the series, and that's going to be Jameson Taillon against Mitchell Parker. This is a 12:35er on a Sunday.
Yep, the last of the 9-game road trip. Taillon is 9-8 with a 3.85 ERA and 23 games started with 104 strikeouts and 133 in a third innings pitch. He got the win in his last start against Pittsburgh on Monday, giving up 4 runs on 6 2/3 innings. JMO has struggled post All-Star break, going 2-4 with a 5.58 ERA and giving up 8 home runs. He has had his struggles on the road. He's 4-4 with a 4.72 ERA and 11 starts, so he does better at Wrigley. Taillon is 0-1 lifetime against the Nats with a 4.63 ERA and 11 games started. Only 5 Nats hitters have faced JMO, and no one has more than 4 at-bats against him. Mitchell Parker is a 24-year-old rookie left-hander. He's 7-8 with a 4.26 ERA and 24 starts with 109 strikeouts. Like most rookies, he had his up and downs. In August, he gave up no runs against the Brewers, no runs against the Angels, but then he gave up 9 against the Phillies. Bounced back against the Rockies 2 starts ago with 1 run in 7 innings. And in his last start, he gave up 2 runs in 4 innings against the Yankees. He's never faced the Cubs in his career, and only Isaac Paredes and Christian Bethancourt, guys that were on other teams, have seen him. Parker throws a 4-seam fastball, a curveball, and split finger.
All right, very good. So now we got to get into the hot and the not, and I got to tell you, Crawly, it's going to be a long list for the hot, I think.
It is a really long list. Let's go ahead with both of the catchers. Miguel Amaya, 13 for his last 22, hitting .591 with 2 home runs and 13 RBIs in his last 7 games. Christian Bethancourt, 4 for 7 with 1 home run, 8 RBIs. He's hitting .571 in his last 7 games. Seiya Suzuki, he is 14 for his last 31 with a double, a triple, 3 home runs and 8 RBIs. Pete Crow-Armstrong, 12 for his last 27 with 2 doubles, 2 homers, and 9 RBIs. Ian Happ, 12 for his last 30 with 6 doubles, 1 homer, 5 RBIs. He's hitting .400. This team is on fire.
And fuego.
Unfortunately, not Michael Busch, 5 for his last 28 with 3 RBIs. He's hitting .179, as is Isaac Paredes, 5 home runs in his last 28 at-bats, 1 home run and 3 RBIs. So those are the cold for the Cubs.
Yeah, he has not been great lately, Michael Busch, but he did have a stretch. He kept the team competitive. All right, as far as the Nationals goes, who do we need to be keeping an eye out for?
Jacob Young is 8 for his last 21, center fielder. He's hitting .381, and Juan Yepes is 5 for his last 15. He's their first baseman. He's hitting .333. I kind of giggled on this one. Do you remember this guy? He's on the Nats lineup. He's actually doing good in his last 7 games. 3 for his last at 7. Ildemaro Vargas.
I'm not going to lie and tell you I do.
Oh, God, he was awful for the Cubs a couple of years back, and so I didn't know he was still in baseball. So, hey, man, he's still getting a paycheck. Still getting a paycheck.
Still getting a paycheck. They still get a paycheck. All right, very good. How about the knots for them? They got some knots?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they definitely got some knots. But mainly James Wood, the left fielder, he's hitting 3 for his last 19, hitting .158. And catcher Keibert Ruiz is hitting 3 for his last 23, .130.
Prediction time. I'm going to go first. I'm going to say the sweeps go on. I think there's going to be a ton of carryover for that game, and Jameson Taillon is due for a better outing. I have faith in Shota, and it's just going to be that middle game with Javier Assad that you got to cross your fingers with a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to go Cubs taking 2 out of 3. A middle game is the one I'm looking at. I think DJ Hurst is going to come out motivated against his former team.
Yep.
I think it's going to be a fun game all around. I want the Cubs to win, but I want DJ Hurst to have a good performance. That's where I'm at on that one.
All right, so Dustin's got the sweep. Crawly's got 2 out of 3. We'll see what happens. That's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram. Of course, we're on Twitter. You can email us, flythew670@gmail.com. You can watch us by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel. I know some Cub fans, Crawly, will be out at Pearl Jam out at Wrigley, and the rest of us will be listening and watching the Cubs on TV and radio. Enjoy the last summer weekend, I guess, at least on the official summer calendar, and we'll get back together early next week.
Yep. And to quote Eddie Vedder, the Cubs are still alive. So hopefully that they can keep this going. Some more sweeps. Go Cubs. Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!